Hello everyone, I hope you're doing wonderfully well. This is the breakdown of my mix of Back to You by London Lawhon. So when I heard this song, the main thing that came to me was Adele, Skyfall, James Bond. I'm a big fan of John Barry, and I really wanted to try and go down that path. I'm not a writer, I'm not a composer, I don't play any instruments. So yeah, I was really fortunate to have the MIDI files from Chris Ibbotson, which kind of helped drive a lot of this stuff. So one of the main things that people will notice if you listen to my mix is that the length of the song is a bit different to the original. So I added an intro, as you would have just heard, and extended that for a little bit longer. I also extended the middle 8, or it was a middle 4, and I made it a middle 8 and a solo. So doing all of that stuff, essentially the way I started out this song was I went through and did a very rough mix with only the live instruments, so the live kick, snare, toms, etc., and overheads, just a very rough mix. And then I moved over to Reason. I have a bit of a writing template set up, still refining it, which has a whole bunch of Reason channels tied into Pro Tools. So let's go over to Reason and have a look at some of the MIDI stuff. So yeah, once I've got the structure of the song together, pretty much in Pro Tools, I'll map that out in Reason. I just use Reason as an instrument in Pro Tools, so tempo and everything is controlled through Pro Tools, which is great. I then dropped Chris's MIDI parts for his piano into here, which was really good of him, so thanks a lot, Chris Ibbotson. It's included in the original multi-tracks if you're looking for it. I've also got all of the MIDI here. I included that in the members multi-tracks upload, if people are looking for that as well. So yeah, I created the intro bond stab with some horns and some strings, and then throughout the song some additional timpani and some further orchestral percussion, and at the end it's a little bit difficult to tell, you can't really hear it except as the outro sort of dies out a little bit. I added in some choir just to add a bit more spread. I thought that was really, really nice. So Warren actually asked what the instruments were. So it's just pretty much standard Reason piano. There's nothing special. It's just a grand piano in Reason. For those, there's a couple. So there's the end noodle and the bond stab, and then just standard orchestral percussion, which is in Reason here. And then the horns, again, are just some Reason horns, which are good. I've got a bunch of, you get a load of refills with Reason, which is great. They do lots and lots of free stuff. Yeah, there's plenty of stuff to choose from. What they call big 60s horns. So they have this concept of a combinator where they put in a whole bunch of effects and distortion and stuff to add a bit more real feel to some of the horn samples that they have. And then yeah, with the choir it's just big large ensemble oohs and ahs, which I will play you. So essentially take these from Reason and then feed each of the individual channels into Pro Tools, which I will show you in Pro Tools. Great. So as I said, I once I got all of the MIDI sorted out, I'd written a whole bunch of stuff, and I recorded it into Pro Tools. So essentially, in on an instrument channel, out through a bus, and then from a bus into an audio channel, and just recorded the audio. And then got down to mixing. So let's see, where should we start? So the way I tend to work, I will bus everything. So I'll usually have like a kick bus, snare, depending on how many channels of kick and snare I have, a top kit, which is usually overhead, crashes, hi-hat, cymbals, if they're separate cymbals. Let's see, I put a reverse cymbal in here as well, and then I'll have a subgroup for the kit, and I'll pretty much 100% of the time have a parallel bus, which I will compress quite heavily. Cool, so let's see where we got to. So, as I said, I tried to use as much of the live kit as possible. I didn't want to use too many samples here. I did use one, which is the one of the kick drums. So just a bit of extra attack. And going through the MV2 and the EQP1A, the pre-tech. Cool. And then using the actual live kick for more bottom end. So yeah, so as you can see, fairly well low passed, cutting out a lot of the top end here, and mid as well. Some fairly heavy compression and a bit of a boost at 50 there, and then going into an REQ again, fairly heavily low passed, bit of a boost at around 50, into the good old R bass, again more of a boost around the 50 hertz there, and then the DBX 160. As they say, if it's moving, it's probably doing too much. Cool. And then a mix of them both going into the MV2. Love this thing. And a bit more of a boost with 60 hertz on the EQP1A. Boost and cut, and then to give it some cool. The snare is it's quite an SSL-y sounding snare. Let's just turn that guy off. Mainly driven by this guy, so slow attack, fairly fast release. Taking off some of the bottom end. So this particular channel I duplicated it. I wanted more of the ring, so yeah, just trying to bring out the ring of the snare. Yeah, more boost to the top end, cutting out, doing a high pass, and then really trying to accentuate the snares on the bottom snare. Going into BF76, and like I said, with the SSL channel, more of a happy snare. And then the reverb is the H verb, which is on that 80 snare. It's basically a gated reverb. So really trying to spread the snare out and keep the bass, the kick, sorry, centered. On the toms, we just have the Sheps. So a bit more attack, a bit more bottom end, a bit of a top boost. Hi-hat, just rolling off a lot of the bottom end really, so some serious high pass. And then yeah, we're just balancing. I don't tend to do a lot to hi-hats. Just bring them in to give position, to take a lot of it from the overheads. And then yeah, all of the various crashes. I added a reverse crash and another crash here. Sorry, my computer's struggling a little bit. And then overheads. So yeah, a little bit of a high pass at around 100 for the overheads, and cutting out that to 350 odd, sort of the low mids. Putting some air in with the Maag EQ. Again, we talk about this a lot. It's a little bit pricey, but it's an excellent piece of kit. So 20k, fair boost, which is good. And then going into the LA2A emulation from T-Rex for some analog. I really like that. Just a little bit of control, not a huge amount. Cool. And then the room. So yeah, kind of treating this like just that sort of compressed worst mic, I think we called it, WURST. So a little bit of a high and low pass cut out at that sort of 450, 350 sort of mark. Relatively wide Q, and then going into the Abbey Road TG for a bit more character and presence. So yeah, picking up the top end. So then going into the kit sub, which is just through the SSL bus compressor. I love this thing, I use it a lot. And MV2, again, as I said, I use this quite a lot. And then I've duplicated, so got a parallel bus compressor through the Omnipressor. Talked about this before, I really like it, but I have no idea half the time what it's actually doing. I chose an interesting sounding preset and then just fiddled with the knobs until it sounded good. It's a very strange piece of kit sometimes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but more often than not you end up with something pretty good. And then MV2 again. So as a whole, so really trying to go for that larger, expansive sort of drum sound with sort of quite a beefy, chunky bass drum kick. Cool. Alright, I'll come back to the percussion. Let's go to our bass. So with the bass, I usually use the DI for low end, amp for top end, and then I'll duplicate either the amp or the DI and put some dirt on it just to give accentuate the character a little bit. So as you can see, for low end, some serious cut around the high mids and mid range, around the 240, so that sort of low mids mud trying to get rid of some of that, and a bit of a boost, with a sharp Q at about 100 Hertz. Again, going into a DBX 160, not doing a lot on that. And that sounds like this. Let's turn all these guys off. So mainly around the bottom end. And then bringing in the amp for the top end. The reason I tend to do that is the amp on the DI, the low end on the DI is a bit more controlled, so it's easier, whereas the amp low end tends to be a bit more all over the shop sometimes. So as you can see, I've done a fairly heavy cut at 100 and 180, a bit more of a boost at sort of mids and the high mids, just to get more of that character. Cool. And then, as I said, I duplicated the amp, went through a decapitator, so yeah, give it some dirt, smash it up a bit. And the REQ, so high and low passing. Cool. So then if we just put them all together, and then C4, so I tend to use this just to squash, make some space for the kick drum. So as you can see, my crossover's around 70 odd Hertz, so getting out of the way of the kick drum from about 70 so up to about 80, 100, or 128 there, so just really trying to get it out of the way of that real low end. And then Boz Digital did this one as a freebie recently, which is Bark of Dog. I really like this. It's awesome. Basically, sort of your low end synthesizer, but it's great. Into the MV2. Again, really nice control for top and bottom end. And then Pre-Tech, giving it that nice sculpt around the 100 Hertz mark. Cool. Let's hear that with the kit. Nice. I think it works really well with the kick and the bass drum. Kick and the bass. Okay, so then onto the percussion. So I added a whole bunch of timpani, and obviously the castanets. So there's the existing bells and timpani, and I added at the end some additional timpani for more drama. And then, the tambourine has got this great little delay on that I really like. So let's just have a little listen to that. So this is just the EC300. It's a great little ping pong delay. It's a Mac DSP. They make great plugins. Check them out. They are very awesome. So an 8th and a 16th, just giving it a bit of modulation, a bit of width. It's kind of cool. And it works really nicely with the castanets as well. Cool. All right. So 12-string guitars. So with the 12-string, I actually tried to loop some of it and bring it into the intro to give it. There's a track by Mono, a band called Mono, English band, Martin Virgo, around in the 90s, and called Slim See a Girl. And there's this little harpsichord, or it might be a 12-string, sounds like a harpsichord to me, in that track, which gives it a real tension. It's kind of feels very sort of Italian jobby to my mind, if you know that film, the original, not the remake with Marky Mark. Yeah, it's got a real sort of Italian job vibe, slightly tense, kind of noir, cinema noir sort of feel, which I really liked about it. So this is what I was going for. And going into a Primal Tap and a Valhalla vintage verb. Love this reverb, it's fantastic. It sounds so nice. Oh, wonderful. REQ, so yeah, just a little bit of a high pass REQ, a little bit of a dip around the 300, 350, quite a wide Q, and boosting the top end a little bit. Just that's for the acoustic guitars overall. So this is mainly, the stereo here is mainly driven by the effect, whereas the stereo here is mainly driven, when you get into the second chorus, by the actual instrument itself. So lovely. And then the outro guitar, so the electric. So with this guy, I love to reamp the guitars, and Amplitude has some really great settings and stuff. You can really get in deep with this thing. I tend to move the microphones around a lot, and find the best position on the cab, which is great. You can do that. Where are we? Here we go. So yeah, just moving it around as you wish, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so then you can muck about with the settings as well, coming out, which is great. I really like this. And then yeah, just an REQ. So I'll play it without, and you'll see what I mean here. It's cool, it's a little bit honky though. Pulled out some of the low mids and a bit of the honk around that sort of 520, coming up to sort of 600 here. That's where you get that slightly nasally sort of sound, which is yeah, sort of sound. So just play all those three together. Sounds really nice. It's great. It kind of almost slightly centers the electric and puts the 12 strings out really, really wide. Okay, and to the piano. Let's just have a little listen, shall we? So in the intro, just kept it really nice and natural, just gentle and intimate. So as you can see, when we get into the first chorus, I've actually duplicated it, and I've reamped. It's just to give it some dirt. It also obviously gives it a bit more presence, a bit more oomph. And you can hear the dirt there just kind of helping to push it forward a bit more, which is I really like. So as I said, the MIDI is available of this. I've added a whole bunch of stuff. Well, not a whole bunch, but I've added a few bits and pieces to the MIDI, and then you've got the actual audio as well, which is this file here. Okay, so on the amplitube, I have a jazz amp, so it's just a jazz clean. I think the pieces where it gets interesting for me is I've got a Fender Twin here, and I can't remember if I used the reverb. I don't think I did. But you can pan the microphones in different positions, and then muck about with the width. You have different rooms that you can use to create a bit more space, which is great. I really like this. So let's just have a quick listen on its own. Cool. And then with the main piano as well. That blends really nicely. Cool. So on the group, I have the API compressor. So fairly fast attack, standard 4:1 ratio, and sort of medium release. Going into the PregTech, bit of a boost at 100 there, and quite a lot at 10k. And then the Marg EQ, again for some air around the 20k. Bit of a cut, 160. Quite subtle. And then just a bit of control with the LA2A emulation. The effect is the space echo boy going into the space reverb. So really long decay on that. This is just comes with Pro Tools, emulates a whole bunch of different spaces, which I really like. I use it a lot on an acoustic instrument, so piano, strings, acoustic guitar. Not so great on electrics, gets a bit messy, but on acoustic instruments it's lovely. Very nice. All right, and then going to the brass. So again, the MIDI is available with all this and the actual audio tracks as well. So the main direction with this stuff, with the brass, was trying to make it as analog as possible. So the samples aren't fantastic out of reason, they're okay. So I've gone for a lot of analog plugins. As you can see, there's quite a serious noise floor going on, which is the Kramer tape. So on the main horns, and I duplicated them because I wanted a bit more dirt. So just trying to go for some depth through the sheps here, quite a bit of saturation and some bottom end. Sort of lows and a bit of the low mids. It's not low mids, sorry. Yeah, more mid-range. They give the bottom end. And then the spread from the main ones. So Kramer tape, I've got a bit of some low pass and a little slapback delay there. And I use that for compression as well. And then going into an API, top end. It's kind of pumping those a little bit more. But yeah, as you can see, pretty noisy, so I've had to do a lot of automation just to bit more control of the noise there. The effects are, tape echo. This is just the Avid tape echo that comes with Pro Tools. It's not bad. I use this a bit. It's pretty good. Automated the bypass on there as well. And again, the space is just I just repeated the one on the piano. I really like that. Strings. So this is mainly the strings from the original session, and then I added in at the beginning the stab. Really, it's just to give some depth and darkness to the horns. Play those together, you get what I mean. On the main strings, we've got the staccato strings here and just the standard strings. Saturation knob from Softtube, this guy, which is free and pretty good. MV2, again, love this thing. Marg EQ, so quite a lot of air on that. Cutting off the mid-range, the high mids there, and doing some serious cuts around the 160 and the 40 Hz. We don't need a lot of that low end, just gets in the way. So yeah, cutting a bit of that out. And then boosting it back in, so it's just that kind of cutting and boosting, trying to really shape that low end as much as possible. And then a final cut of the 20K. I think that's just... It just gives it a bit more presence. And doesn't make it quite so grating on the ear, which I like. And then the main effects, the Valhalla frequency echo, it's free again, very well worth getting it, it's brilliant. And my friend the space echo. Nice. So the frequency echo's got a little bit of modulation on it, but not a lot, just a little bit. It's nice going into the reverb. So vocals. So I do quite a bit of work to the vocals. I get very sensitive to a lot of the sort of pops and spits, especially if it's a bit overcompressed and you get a lot of the puts and tus at the beginning and ends of words. If the vocalist is really near the mic, the singer's really near the mic. So I've cut a lot of that out, not so much at the beginning, but
can't forget.
So this is the Mac DSP.
Can't live regretting it all.
So yeah, bit of a DSP
mistakes,
there.
one worth a bound to fall.
Going into the SSL channel.
That hurts the most. It's the lonely that chills my bones.
So a bit of a high pass and a low pass going on.
That hide the truth.
Cutting out the honk there around 690, 700 Hz. And low mids as well. And a bit of bottom end, cutting out the bottom end as well. And then into the Marg. So a little bit of air and a little bit of mid-range.
I should've never let go. A memory of you, that's all I know.
Not a lot, just kind of spreads the top end of the vocal a little bit. And then going into another DSL.
Tearing up my heart into pieces and
so this is quite surgical, this one, the sibilance from Waves.
and it's
pretty
the
good.
lonely that chills my bones.
LA2A.
It's the sky
comp just to catch any peaks that get through. So the other thing I did here was added a whisper vocal. It's super quiet.
Let them fall. It's the darkness that hurts. Chills my bones.
Can't quite hear it, but it just adds something.
That hide the truth, but it's my heart that makes me run right back to you.
So then don't generally do much to the thickener vocals. So this is just the octave up, octave down stuff that Warren gives. If he doesn't, I'll usually create it myself if it doesn't come with it. And I just repeat the vocal chain, slightly cut down version, so I don't have the Mac DSP de-esser, just a couple of instances of the sibilance de-esser, but I tend to make some much heavier cuts on the high and low passing. So yeah, so low passed all the way down to like 4.85k there, which is pretty full on. And then yeah, similar sort of settings for compression on the LA2A and the R comp. Again, for the vocal doubles, as you can see, sort of similar vocal settings as well. Low cut 50, cutting out some of those low mids, and the honk at sort of 700 hertz odd. Basically, I've recreated, just copied the main vocal EQ and compression to each of the channels. And then the effects are got all of them? Yes, great. So the effects are, we have a verb and a delay, both going through the R comp, so ducking the original. So they're keyed off the original vocal, duck the original vocal, and then you just get the actual reverb and the delays come through.
Can't forget our past love. Can't live regret.
So I usually mess with the low and the high cut in the EQ here. So high cut at 3.5, low cut at 420.
I couldn't help myself in love.
So nice. Love the Valhalla vintage verb.
Can't forget.
So good. And as I said, it's a little duck. Neat trick if you don't know it. Basically, you key an R comp or a fast compressor from the lead vocal, put it after the reverb, and set it so that it ducks the vocal dry sing or the reverb when the vocal's singing. As soon as the vocal stops, it lets the effect through. So you get this lovely open, nice dry sort of signal, and then openness on the verb when it hits, which is lovely. Again on the Valhalla echo, frequency echo. Cool. And then finally, the choir. So again, as I said before, you can't really hear this when it comes in. Just Valhalla reverb, big concert hall. Yeah, massive. And not a huge amount of work to this, cutting out sort of the 340 low mids. Yeah, just high passing, and then adding in a bit of air, a bit more 2.5k. Yeah, removing some of that sub 40 hertz sort of stuff. So if I play that. all together. It's just at the end as it comes, everything else fades out, then it comes in. Yeah, for me it's just little bits of ear candy like that. I really, really love. So yeah, shaping the bottom end around 100 Hertz there, boosting and cutting, and boosting the top end again. And then yeah, the LA2A, just a bit of control. These are samples, so you don't need much. They're probably already compressed. Great, and then last but not least, just going up to here, we have the SSL compressor. Yeah, high ratio. So yeah, fast attack, auto release. So just a little bit of lightness. I don't tend to do a lot on the master bus if I can avoid it. Yeah, just minimal, and then I'll master and see where we go with mastering. Great. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. And please leave any comments. Let me know your feedback. If you enjoy the video, please let me know. That'd be great. Thanks a lot.